Welcome to section 4 in chapter 3, which is writing equations of lines. And today we have our third form of an equation. So the first one you guys are familiar with is y equals mx plus b, slope-intercept form. And we've also now talked about standard form, which is ax plus by equals c. And our third one is point-slope form, which looks a little trickier than the rest of them. So we'll go ahead and fill in our notes. We know what each one stands for. Well, m is nice. Okay, m still stands for our slope, so we don't have to worry about that. X and y, okay, are part of the equation, so x just stays x, and y just stays y. And then there's x1 and y1, so x1 is the x-coordinate in an ordered pair, and y1 is the y-coordinate in an ordered pair. So in order to use today's formula, point-slope form, we also need to have another piece of information, which is an ordered pair that it passes through, which would be x1, y1. So we need another ordered pair today. So here is example A. Write the equation of a line that passes through negative 3, 8 and is parallel to y equals 1/5 x minus 5 and write in standard form. So the first thing I'm going to start with is, okay, parallel to this line, okay, so if we're talking about line number 1 again, parallel means they have the same slope. So I know that the slope of my line is going to have 1/5. So if I'm going to write out my formula in point slope form, I'm going to go y minus something equals m, which is my slope, 1/5, and then in parentheses x minus blank. Okay, so automatically you should be at least able to set up the formula y minus something equals my slope, and then x minus something. And then on here, in my x minus, okay, is the x-coordinate from the ordered pair I'm given. So I'm going to put in a negative 3. Now notice x minus and negative 3 is going to cancel it out to make that x plus 3. And then the y-coordinate here is 8, so I'll fill that in the y minus part. So the x-coordinate goes with the x minus part, and the y-coordinate goes with the y minus part. So this is my equation in point-slope form. However, the directions said to write that in standard form. So I am going to go ahead and distribute on the right side. So I'll have y minus 8 equals 1/5 x plus 3/5. Okay, and you're going to want to leave things in terms of fractions. It's going to make your life a lot easier. So now, to get it into standard form, I need to move my 1/5 x over there. So I'm going to subtract 1/5 x from each side. So I've got negative 1/5 x plus y minus 8 equals 3/5. So now I have my x first, then my y. Now I need to get my numbers together. So I'll add 8 to each side. So I'm going to get negative 1/5 x plus y equals 8 and 3/5. So I'm going to do some side work over here. 8 and 3/5. So to turn that into an improper fraction, 8 times 5 is 40, plus 3 is 43. So that's going to give me 43/5. Okay, so now if you remember, standard form means I cannot have a negative or a fraction on the x. So I'm going to clear that out by multiplying everything by negative 5. So that's going to give me with x, because the negative 1/5 cancels with a negative 5, minus 5y. These 5's over here will cancel, leaving me with negative 43. So my final equation is x minus 5y equals negative 43. You can see that today's lesson takes a lot of time and a lot of steps, so really take your time, go through each step, and watch your negatives. Be very careful here. Okay, example B says write the equation of a line that passes through 4, 9 and is perpendicular. Okay, perpendicular should hopefully ring a bell. Opposite reciprocal to y equals 5x plus 3. Okay, so that means my m for the line I'm looking for is going to be the opposite reciprocal of 5. So the reciprocal is 1/5, and change my sign to be a negative 1/5. Okay, and then here's my ordered pair, so I know that 4 is my x1 and 9 is my y1. So if I start my formula in point slope form, I have y minus y1, which is 9, equals my slope m, negative 1/5, and then in parentheses x minus my x1, which is 4. Okay, so y minus the y-coordinate equals my slope, and then x minus the x-coordinate. Okay, so again, I will distribute first. So I've got y minus 9 equals negative 1/5 x. Negative 1/5 times negative 4 is a positive 4/5. Again, I want my x in front of my y, so I need to move that over by adding 1/5 x. Again, watching your signs here carefully. So that leaves me with a 1/5 1/5 x plus y minus 9 equals a 4/5. Okay, I'm going to move my number over, so I'm going to add 9. So that's going to give me 9 and 4/5. So if I turn it into an improper fraction, 9 times 5 is 45, plus 4 is 49/5. So then I've got 1/5 x plus y equals 49/5. Again, if you leave them as improper fractions over here in terms of fifths, then everything should cancel out really nicely. So that's kind of a nice little trick to see if you're doing things right. So again, I can't have a fraction on my x, so I'm going to clear it by multiplying by 5. That cancels 1/5 to get x plus 5y equals, and then this cancel, so I'm just left with 49. Okay, so if you're doing it right, you end up with all whole number coefficients. Okay, so let's take a look at example C. This time it gives me two different points, 3, 8, and 9, 16, and has a y-intercept of 2. And this was something extra that we didn't need here. So to find the slope between 2 points, I do the difference in the y's. So I've got 16 minus 8 over the difference in the x's, so 9 minus 3. So that's going to leave me with 8/6, which I can reduce down to a slope of 4/3. And I know I have a y-intercept of 2, so I don't necessarily have to use point-slope form. I have also y-intercept form, which I know is y equals mx plus b, and that one's a little easier. So if I have it, let's use it. So I've got y equals 4/3 is my slope x, plus a -2 for my y-intercept. Okay, it's not cheating, it's just realizing what points you have, what information you have, and using the correct formula. Okay, so I'm going to move this over to get it into standard form again. So I'm going to subtract my 4/3 x. So I've got -4/3 x plus y equals a -2. I need to get rid of my negative and my fraction. So again, you just multiply by that bottom number. Okay, I multiply by the denominator. So I'll multiply by a -3. So that's going to leave me with 4x minus 3y equals a +6. Okay, again, watch your negatives. -2 times -3 is a +6. So that one was a little shorter, so if you have the y-intercept, it kind of makes it nice. So use it if you've got it. Example D, story problem. The cost of installation for 10 windows is $800, and it's $1,000 for 12. Assume the relationship between the cost and the number of windows is linear. Let W represent the independent variable. Okay, so maybe I could make 2 ordered pairs that would help me. So if it tells me W is my independent variable, that's the number. So I could turn this into 10, 800, because number of windows is independent, that's the x, so I could say 10 windows cost 800. So I know 12 windows cost 1,000. So those are my 2 ordered pairs. Now that I have 2 ordered pairs, it turns into any other problem. So I would want to find the slope first. So to find m, I would do the difference in the y's. So 1,000 minus 800 over the difference in the x's, 12 minus 10. So I would get 200/2, which equals 100. So my slope is 100. Now I can use point-slope form, but I have 2 points. It does not matter which one you use. Okay, you just have to make sure you use the x and the y from the same point. So I'll go ahead and pick 10 and 800. So I know my 10 is my x1 and 800 is my y1. So when I plug it into my formula, I have y minus the y coordinate, 800 equals m, my slope, which we already found is 100, and then in parentheses x minus my x coordinate, which is 10. Okay, so this is kind of nicer. We don't have any fractions here, so I'll distribute again. Y minus 800 equals 100x minus 1,000. In standard form, I can go ahead and I can subtract over my 100x. So then I have -100x plus y minus 800 equals -1,000. Then I'll move over my 800. So I'll add 800 to each side. So I have -100x plus y equals -200. I have a whole number on my x, but I don't have a positive, so I'll just multiply everything by -1. So I have 100x minus y equals 200. Okay, so here's my answer for part A, which said write it in standard form. Part B says write it in slope-intercept form, which we actually could have had over at this point right here, because I just needed a y equals. So at this point, I could have just left it as y equals 100x. And then if I added over my 800 like I did later, I would have minus 200. So that one would have been in y-intercept form already. So notice you can go between all three of the formulas. It just kind of depends on what you're looking for and what you are asked to do. And one more. You guys are doing a good job. Just hold in there. Example E says a caterer charges $150 as a basic setup fee and $250 for each guest. So write the equation in point slope form. Well, how about we just write an equation and see where we go? So $100 for a setup fee and $250 for each guest. So remember when you see the each or the every, that means that is going to be your slope. So I can have my 2.5x, and then my 150 is my basic startup fee. So I'll just add that in as my y-intercept. So I've got y equals 2.5x plus 150. So in point slope form, I would realize that I would have the point 0, 150, because that's like my y-intercept, and at 0, it's still going to cost me $150. So I could do y minus 150 equals 2.5, and then x minus 0. And it'll give you the same equation. So that one is a little tricky to kind of figure that out. But again, if you have the y-intercept, 0, 150, you can plug that in. So here's your answer for point A. And now to go ahead and change that into standard form, I'm going to go back to my original one up here, and I'll subtract over my 2.5x plus my y to equal 150. And then I just need to get rid of the negative and the fraction. And 2.5 is really 5 over 2, so I'm going to multiply by negative 2, which will give me 5x minus 2y equals negative 300. You could have also multiplied there maybe by something else, 4 if you wanted, okay? Anything that cancels it out, so you have a whole number here. You could have a multiple of that, so maybe you got yours to be 10x minus 4y equals negative 600. Okay, that's not a big deal as long as you don't have a negative or a fraction. So today is all about going between all three different forms and learning point slope form, and that is section 4. So congratulations, you made it to the end.